the norms of society. Yeah.
Just don't apply right now.
No, schools have not adopted flexi time, I've noticed.
No, that's true.
Just drop your kids off at 4 p.m. Go on, teach them.
That sounds like a Mark Steeler product, that.
Yeah.
Just basically making the teachers live at the school on a 24-hour rota.
Well, that's because if you've got teachers kind of on any kind of like weird sleep patterns, they'd be all right because they could just do shifts whenever they felt like it.
Oh, I'm sure there's some kind of bizarre equilibrium you could.
Problems fixed itself, haven't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There you go. That's a free UX Tombola at the top of the show.
Have we
started?
We start, yeah.
It's like the old adage that did you when you were in school, like I'm talking preschool, nursery reception, and primary school, believe that your teachers lived in the school? That's quite a common idea.
I don't think I was ever that naive, Mark. even as a young'un.
I'm not sure I was, but I remember once my teacher told me they didn't have a television. And in my innocent, 7-year-old mind, I just thought there would be a gap in their living room where the TV was supposed to be.
Just a bright space.
Yeah, against the wall where, it just didn't quite compute. And now as someone who could probably live without a TV, I finally understand this person, even though I don't even remember their face. Sorry, sir or madam.
I thought you were going to say they could wheel the TVs they had in the school into wherever they slept.
I mean, that would be one of the benefits of living in school, wouldn't it? Is being able to wheel that museum
TV on
piece
wheels.
That is, that is the TV used to play, I don't know, the first 15 minutes of The Shawshank Redemption on repeat in French.
Some of my favourite lessons were kind of waiting half the lesson for them to work out that they've got the wrong remote. They've got no key. They've got no keys to unlock it, and then somebody's recorded over the whatever episode they were going to show with last night's Coronation Street or something.
You can't beat it. Something I think you only really get in the British Educational Institute.
I don't know. I can imagine that's standardised. Anyway, should we roll the titles?
Yes, go on. Oh, we've not even done that yet.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to Faster Horses. I'm one of your hosts, Paul Wilshaw. I've led design and development teams at Barclays and other well-known brands, won lots of awards and a few hackathons.
I'm Nick Tomlinson. I'm a digital illustrator and lead UX designer at a Manchester-based investment company.
And I'm Mark Sutcliffe, lead UX designer in the digital automation sphere.
Coming up, we'll be talking about design, user experience and technology, followed by UX Tombola, where we pick apart the experience of a random product, object, service or place, and a special advert from Mark Steeler from Bolton Arcade.
Hello, thank you. On with the show.
If you want to be part of the show, you can send us questions on Twitter with the hashtag FasterHorsesPodcast. Now, on to the show.
Now the intro's out of the way, welcome to the second half of the show.
You know what? That's just reminded me that at work I discovered we've got this thing called Bolton Services.
That's where Mark's from.
I know, but the way they designed it looks really light, and I just could not get past Bolton Services, and it looked like we were. And,
No one can get past Bolton Services, Paul. The road stops there.
That's where civilization terminates. A service station just outside.
Welcome to Bolton Services.
Bolton Services, yeah.
Bolt goes to die.
It's
We
like,
got one of our security products at Bolton Services. and every time I saw it, I was sort of like creasing up and kind of like,
That's amazing. We've got,
and then I had
just
to
got
like,
a W.H. Smith's.
get your
and
house
the
in.
shell, the burnt out shell of a little chef. But I've set up stall there now. What is right, isn't it?
That's so funny.
Good. Yeah,
Bolton Services.
Bolton
I love that
Services.
though.
Yeah.
The emphasis of that sounds so strange to me. Because if you're from Bolton, you pronounce Bolton.
Yeah.
So bolt on just sounds like you've got your emphasis wrong.
Sounds like your out of town cousins have come to visit.
Yeah.
Where are we going, Daddy? Bolton.
We're going to the favoured land of Bolton. Really?
It sounds
Bolton
beautiful.
to what?
I've never heard or seen Bolton before, but it sounds beautiful.
And then just a hard cut, occupied with a wailing scream. I'm very fond of Bolton.
If you're from there, you can make these jokes, can't you? It's like I do.
What's
I do
your
with Halifax.
excuse?
Well,
Yeah.
you see, I'm from Halifax, and it's on the same ley line, so
Yes.
it's fine.
Yes.
It's fine.
It's like the San Andreas faults.
Yeah.
It's kind of run
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's true, yeah, and that would explain a lot, actually.
Yeah. So Bolton Services, yeah. Get a free
that a lot.
pasty from Greg's with your cloud hosting.
Means a preemptive apology. We give you
yeah.
a free cold pasty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So if anyone's still listening, what's the topic for the show?
The UX of video games, part 3.
Not quite. I slowed down my Elden Ring playing a little bit.
Let's not immediately start talking.
Yeah. When I hit the 60-hour mark in my current character, I thought, I'm going to take a little break. I
remember
just
when
in one day.
I did I don't know if it's possible over a weekend, but I remember when I did like some ridiculous number of hours on Red Dead when it first came out.
Yeah.
Like between Friday and Monday, I played it for literally like 2 days solid.
Yeah. I remember this was for Elder Scrolls Online, and out of the 48 hours the beta was available, I played 38 of them.
10 of those, it was down for maintenance.
Yeah, basically. The funny thing is, though, I never then went on to play the game once it had come out.
After it had come out, yeah.
Basically,
You get that like sicky feeling in your stomach, don't you, when you think about going back on it again?
It's just not going to be the same. It's not going to quite capture the same exclusivity.
Yeah.
But no, that's not our topic today. Today we're going to be talking about leadership in UX.
Cool.
I think.
Creative leadership. I like it.
Creative leadership,
Nice.
indeed.
Nice.
And since I've been awake for literally 27 minutes, does someone else want to introduce this topic in a bit more detail? As I close my eyes for a second.
Definitely. So creative leadership. I think this is quite a nice topic because you two, kind of not long into managing people now, and then going from kind of like a mid to kind of like a leadership role. And I wondered if we could share some insights of what that journey's like, and I know kind of like I get questions and kind of like what is leadership and stuff like that, and people always come up with like questions. And I wonder if we should do an exercise. Let's do a little exercise straight off the bat. And if you let one word to describe creative leadership, Nick, on the spot.
Important. I need to do that thing I do where before we start talking about it, I want to like be very pedantic about the actual question that you've asked. So
go on.
You've included the word creative. Is the word creative like important to the question and the answer? Because when you're talking about UX, some aspects of UX aren't creative, and some are, and some aspects of like management could be uncreative. Like, how important is that particular word in the question?
That's just MISEO. For the episode.
Miso. fermented bean paste.
Well, it just what I'm kind of like. So it is important, and it's if you're a leader in a creative role like UX, design, branding, anything like that. I think. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. But
no, I
thought.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I understand the question. So, what did I say? Important.
Okay. Important.
Yeah. That's my one word. Then I'll stick with that.
Okay. Cool.
If I was to choose one word, I'd probably go with empowering or something like that. I've been thinking a lot about it, and this might just be because I'm a lazy sod, but I tend to engender as much autonomy as possible within the team, and to the point where I have a team of about 7 people, reporting to me. I'm part of a leadership team with there's 3 of us, and there's about, including ourselves, about 22, 23, maybe 24 now in the team, because it's continuing to grow. And I think when you get to a stage like that, you have to have an autonomous team. But I think when you're in a creative industry as well, I remember, I think I've had opportunities to say it before, but I remember when I was a graphic designer, and one of the quotes that I found was, I'm not a tool to realise your shitty ideas. And essentially, I think if you introduce any level of micromanagement, that's essentially what you reduce your creative team to. And no matter whether you yourself are a very creative individual, you are not going to have the creative power of 17 people, of 24 people.
Fucking hell, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
So you've got to let these people. In fact, it's your job to usually make sure everyone else is giving them the space they need, and making sure they have the tools they need, the empowerment, as it were, to just do their job and to realise their version of the vision, if you will.
Yeah.
So that would be my one word. So I did manage to stretch that out into about paragraphs.
That's good. I'd go with. I was thinking about this. I'd go with empathy, and kind of like, because not everybody's on the same page. Not everybody's got kind of like the same standards of living. Not everybody's got kind of like all the access to stuff, and it's having that empathy to. And I'm going to bundle in listening to people. And like getting people's ideas and kind of really understanding why people, kind of are working, what they want to work on, and how they want to work is really key for me for any kind of like leadership. Is having that empathy, and I think kind of when I was working with you two, and I kind of like said, I don't care where everybody works. I don't care what hours people work. I don't care. All I care about is people are passionate to do a job, and whether that's if they're, as we were talking, about sleep patterns and stuff like that. If the most creative point of the day is 3 a.m., why should we force somebody to work at 3 p.m.?
Yeah.
So, and I think if you get that kind of empathy right, you naturally get a kind of a high performing team, I find, because you get that trust and you get that. There's nothing worse than working in a team where you kind of start questioning your own actions and whether you're doing the right thing, and you kind of like then you put your effort into validating your own role over delivering something, and I suppose that's where I kind of think creative leadership is a little bit different than other leadership, because the broad range, as we've talked about many times, the broad range of what we do, it's not just designing a pretty mobile first screen. Just but it's all the things around it, and that is the tip of the iceberg, and all the other stuff that's gone in, the research, the kind of findings, the insights, the kind of the aligning with the business goals, how people are going to sell it, how you're going to market the shit out of it, the SEO of it, and stuff like that. The designs are just like the pinnacle of what the output is, which is kind of like, and if people just want to hone that top thing, then cool, but you've got to think as well about all the foundations that go into building that as well.
I think that's one of the fundamental points here, isn't it? Is when you go into a management position at this level, you're not only managing people. In fact, you could probably argue that you're not necessarily managing people at all. That's not necessarily the bulk of the job, because you have to start managing the processes, and it's more about putting things in place, as I say, that allow people to just do the work, let's smooth the daily delivery, and then you shift from that micro day-to-day delivery as you go further up the food chain, if you will, and you become more strategic, and you become more macro, and you're taking a bird's eye view of the output, the creative output of your team. And instead of just looking at the design, you're looking at the wider impact, wider package, as it were, and you get to look at the how and why of that delivery over just getting it done. And I think that is a very different skill set. Not very different, but it's certainly lots of overlap. But there's quite a different skill set to when you're just in the thick of it in a sprint team, perhaps delivering screen layouts or iterating on a component design. Because you, as a lead, you might be conferring with a product owner on how to actually get that resourced in the first place in your team. And that is where that's a task that you have to do. That's pretty unseemly sometimes that you do, so that your team doesn't have to, so that your creative team can actually spend the time being creative instead.
I think you nailed it there when you said you don't actually end up managing them that much. Like a good manager, it just kind of clicked in my head. A good manager, I think, like manages their people as little as possible, but actually probably ends up managing everyone else in the business, like so that those people don't become a problem for your people that you manage. So like you manage IT because they're not helping your team member achieve what they need to achieve. Like they're locked out of something, they don't have a sign up, something's blocked, something needs acquiring, and you need to like monitor that conversation and step in sometimes and just be like, look, fucking just fix the problem. Thank you for giving us feeding back and giving us the information, but just please go away and fix it. And the person on your team might not want to or feel empowered enough to do that themselves. So you need to manage people for them, or you need to like insulate them from bullshit and and bullshit and conversations coming from above. And like, I'm very big on like, if there's a conversation going on somewhere, and something's up in the air, a lot of people feel like, oh, we shouldn't tell the people we're managing about that now because it might change. But I think you need to tell them that this conversation is going on and it might change. But you need to also differentiate between like what's useful and what's like not at that point, and sometimes that might look like you're not telling them things. That's quite a difficult thing to balance. But yeah, I think if you're another thing like I'm massive on, and this is a lot of my opinions on being a manager come from like the route I've taken to get here and the managers I've had or not up until this point. And like I've seen a lot of how it's not done. And I strive to be like not like these people, and hopefully I'm achieving that at the moment. But I've learned a lot about how not to do things. And what you have to do is, particularly if you're responsible for the hiring, is let the person you have hired to do the job do their job. That is I think probably the most important thing, which is what Mark said. Like you create a space for them to operate in, and you empower them to do that. And to do that, you need to be off like managing other people, stopping people overstepping their roles, stepping into the role of like your team, your UX designers or UX researchers if you've got them, and making sure that they understand what your team's role is and how they go about doing that, setting up the processes and helping the people involved in those processes understand what their role is, and what your team's role is, and where the overlap is and isn't, and just allowing. A lot of it as well is like allowing your team to make some mistakes to learn from. Yeah. And it's easy to look at like a design or look at a job when you're introducing your team to a job. It's easy to be like very prescriptive and be like, this is what I think we need. This is what I think we should do. These are the components I think we need. This is how I think it should look. Like these are the colors I think we should use. But you need to allow them to, like, time permitting, figure out a lot of that stuff themselves, what works and what doesn't work. And again, that takes a lot of like trust in the people that you've hired, I think, and a lot of like self-restraint as well, just not fucking step in. The number one thing I've learned about having lots of resource is like using it rather than just being like, don't worry about it, I'll do it. Like I'll do everything. You just like tinker around in the background, I think, and that's bad management as well, because having too much work is just as bad as not having any. I think if you sat around twiddling your thumbs, it's incredibly frustrating. So you need to seek that balance. But I think what I'm trying to do as a manager is like, if something goes wrong, come to me and I'll fix it. However, I will be doing my very best to make sure in the background that these things don't go wrong in the first place. But if anything gets past me, let me know. That's kind of what I try to do, really, I think.
It's interesting because like, back in my naive youth, I always thought, kind of like managers are kind of like this, and that's somewhere where I wanted to go and wanted to be. And like I always thought, at the really bottom end, you were doing all the shit jobs and stuff like that. But really, as a good manager and a leader, I think that's when the really shitty jobs come in. And I think if anyone wants to be a leader and not deal with really sticky, really horrible jobs, then that's not the right career path for you.
No, and similarly as well, if you want to be a manager and all you're interested in doing is telling people what to do, you absolutely should not be a manager.
Totally.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? You can find the more you get into a leadership position, the more you get into a leadership person. Well,
on Fridays. On Fridays.
Ding dong. The more you get into a leadership position, the further away from the design you can end up getting, because you that's the bit that you have to delegate. That's the bit that your resource is dedicated to. That's part of the daily delivery. And as you say, that leaves you with the shit shield. That's what you are, essentially. or that's part and parcel of it. And yeah, one of the really shittiest jobs that I think comes from management in UX especially is convincing the rest of the business why they hired you and why you've got a team of 24, 25 people and why that's nowhere near enough for the size of your organisation. Because, and we've touched on this kind of stuff as well, there's certain things in UX that don't have the most immediate payoff. They're certainly not as easily described through return on investment. So you really do have to do a good job of selling your profession to the people who are already spending the money on it. And that can go, well, I've certainly experienced it go both ways. If you're in a very kind of UX immature environment, then that's going to be the bulk of your day. And the reward for that is if you do it well, eventually you'll end up as a user-centered company. And people will be asking you where the UX is rather than what it is, and they'll naturally be on board. But it does take a long time to get to that point.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, you said right at the top, important, and I just wanted to dig into that a little bit more.
Like what I mean by important.
What you mean by important? Yeah.
So
I think you touched on it a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So, like,
I don't want to.
Creative management is important. So you need, if you're on a team, you need a good manager, and I think good. I think I can probably try to quantify like what I think good mean, or what good should mean, which is that you're there to support them, you're there to help them progress in their career, and I don't think that limits you to like the company that you work in. If your dream is to work with me, first of all, you poor thing. Second, not
at all.
You dream bigger.
Yeah, exactly. You should. So I'm only ever interested in hiring someone who I'm terrified of and who could take my job. Because if I'm not looking for someone that good, like I'm wasting my time. So I think I should, as a manager, I should offer you all the opportunities to develop yourself, to realise whatever it is that you want to do. Not what you want, not what you can do for this business. Like while we have you, we should be reaping the benefits of your skills and your abilities. But we should be offering you all the chances in the world to get better at what you do, whether that's from learning from me, which, you know, at a certain point will reach its limit, or like offering you training, or offering you access to other areas of the business, like the SEO team or the GA team, and learning from them. And then at the same time, the business has to be responsible for retaining you through like the culture, the benefits, the pay, the job progression, like the work that they're doing. I think if you're offering all those things to someone and their career is it's very dependent on what someone wants from their career. But if they want to progress through the role that they've got through the logical steps from like senior, lead, head of, offer them the opportunities to do that. If they don't want to stay in the company and do those things for you, there's probably something wrong somewhere. And if you can affect that as a manager, that's the role. That's part of the role. So it's important. Important is the word that that you are managing the people in your team for their benefit, and you're managing everyone else in the business to make sure that they don't interfere with your team, I think. And that includes monitoring to make sure they've got enough work, monitoring to make sure they haven't got too much work, listening, not always trying to fix problems for them, I think is something I've learned very recently, actually. Sometimes you just need to listen. Like sometimes people just want to vent, And I think that's a big thing that not a lot of people realize or do. Like if I do this quite a lot actually. I come to people and I just complain. And when someone offers like an explanation or a solution, I get even more annoyed because I'm not telling you because I can't fix it. I'm telling you because this is a stupid situation. I want you to nod your head and go, "Yes, it is stupid, isn't it?" That's all I'm after. And then I'll go away and fix it. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. Like I'm not the crazy person in the room, am I, for being the only person who's noticed this? And all I need is just for someone to go, "Yeah, that's weird," and I can go, "Right, I'm going to go fix this now because I've ascertained that I'm not a crazy person." And that is, and I think having a manager who can do all of that at the same time is incredibly important, because if you've got a manager who doesn't care, you're not going to stick around. If you've got a manager who's micromanaging you and almost cares too much or cares about the wrong things, which is like, this person is on my team and it's my duty to tell this person what to do, that's bad. So it's important that you don't do that. Whether someone stays in the business or stays as little time as possible and goes on to the next role can come down a lot to the person who's directly above them and managing them. Because I've left a lot of roles where it's become clear that the business has no interest in listening to me or my manager. And if it looked like my manager was making progress or was like visibly bothered by the fact that they couldn't make progress, I might have stayed. And it's difficult to say that, because I've had terrible managers and I've worked in terrible places, and I've had like amazing managers and I've worked in terrible places, and I've left them all, haven't I?
Well, yeah.
So it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say whether that person could have made me stay or not, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point, your work you can only do so much, and then it's up to the business to like create this culture and create and listen to the people that are in your team. But you've got to be able to do as much as possible. And just to say, me as a manager, if someone came to me and said, thank you for everything, but I'm thinking of leaving and going somewhere else, I wouldn't take that personally at all. Because if the business could keep you, they would. And if they can't, then you absolutely should go somewhere else. And I think that is that's important too. It's to not take other people's choices personally.
Because I suppose as a manager and leader, kind of like when those people leave, it can be a bit soul destroying, especially really good. But
this is never.
I agree. But I totally agree that it's probably not kind of like something you should take personally.
So
because it's something failing somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. It's not you. I mean, people will leave teams because they've got bad managers. I didn't leave my job because you were a bad manager. I can say
Paul's
that.
Just making the note that it's taken 36 minutes and 47 seconds of recording before you mentioned that point.
So
by the way, none of this is to get any praise or I'm just really
just
interested.
As well, isn't it?
So I have to clarify before I say this that this is the first time that I've been responsible for hiring, directly line managing someone, and also managing in terms of like leading a project. So in previous roles, I've managed people, but I wasn't their manager, so I wasn't their line manager, and they could, it probably wouldn't have gone that well, but they could probably have told me to fuck off if they wanted. but I was leading, like I was given a piece of work and I had a bit of resource as if to say, like, please, can you do this for me? But I wasn't the manager. But we're in a position where we've been able to like hire people. I've been able to make a choice with the other leads and like obviously the head of UX where I could pick someone based on my interview with them and what I learned about that person. And like, I was able to make a decision and say, yeah, this person would be able to do this job, even though they haven't done this job before. Mm-hmm. I've looked at the CV, I've spoken to them, I've asked them questions, and I think based on my experience and my ability that they can do this job. So we've given some people the opportunity to do this job. Like one person has come from customer services, and they showed such an understanding of like customer need and user need and empathy for customers and users that we offered them a job being a UX designer, having no experience in like design or UX since. And it's turned out that was the best decision that, we might have ever made. And similarly for like the other people on the team who have got a bit of a background in design or whatever, but have never had the title of UX designer before. We've given them the chance to be a UX designer. And again, like best decision we've ever made. If those people come on board to my team with no experience of being a UX designer, stay for 2 years and learn so much that they get offered a job as a UX designer at Google, I will take that as a personal win.
Yeah, that's a victory for sure.
Yeah,
because you tell all that about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it comes to the point then where it's like I've done so well as a manager that this person has been offered a job at Google. Right? It's now up to the business. Yeah. It's now up to the business to like match or exceed that offer. Mm-hmm. It's not up to me. I've done everything I can and everything I was expected to do and everything I wanted to do. I've upskilled this person. It's now up to you to retain them. And if you can't do that, let this person go and become like the next me.
I think really interesting point there, because I think and it is so gratifying, because I've managed quite a few apprentices, and they're running their own companies now, or they're kind of heads of department and things like that, and like it is so nice to see them doing well. But at the same time, bastards give us a nice job as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yes. I mean, but that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you never know where these people end up. And obviously, I'm not like cultivating a group of people who can go off and give me a better job. That's not. In fact, that genuinely has not even entered my head until you've just said it now. But you never know, do you? They might go off and be the head of UX at Google, and then one day you might get a phone call. So that's another reason to be a good manager.
It is true. Yeah, true.
The means sometimes, maybe the ends justify the means sometimes. Even if you're doing it for the most selfish reasons possible, if that person ends up having a great life because of your selfish decision, then is that a bad thing?
Is that bad? Welcome to Philosophy Hour.
Yeah, I was only joking about the job, but yeah, I totally agree. Interesting. I've been building out an accessibility toolkit for the business, and I thought
I'd like to look at that. Sidebar. I'd like to look at that if you don't mind.
It's early stages, but it's in our internal SharePoint, but and I've been building that, and I kind of wanted to put it, and I thought, where should I put it? And I actually just put it on SharePoint because it can be accessed by SharePoint's not the greatest tool ever, but it can be accessed by absolutely everybody in the country. And we actually had a works do on Friday. I had so many people come up to me and say, "Oh, this is really good. This is what I've been looking for. This is really nice. This is, you just kind of really explain things and put it into context on that toolkit." It's kind of links out to things. It kind of explains why we're doing things and stuff like that. And, all the I think one of the key things I put in there was only 21% of people don't have any accessibility requirements.
Only 21% of people don't have
any accessibility requirements. I mean, let's face it. Me and you wear glasses now, Nick. I mean, that's a bit of an accessibility, and then all the temporary ones and stuff like that. But and then kind of people were going like, "Oh, I never even thought about it," and those kind of things. And loads of people were going like, "Oh, this is such a great thing. I've been looking for, and I've just put it all together in one place." And so many people from different parts of the business come up to me and say, "This is amazing." And for me, that kind of like that's good leadership, because not only am I changing kind of the immediate team. I know, I'm giving myself a... but it's
so
changing...
difficult to talk about this without sounding like that. I know that's not what we do.
No, but again, as a leader, for me, it's kind of like, even if I can... And I thought about this kind of last week, and I was thinking, even if I can only change like 3-5 people's mindsets, then... It's like the snowball at the top of the mountain, isn't it? You start with a tiny little snowball, and then if those 3 or 5 people go on to different jobs, and they can go like, "Oh, we had this great tool in this job," then it goes into that, and then at the end of it, you've got a massive avalanche.
That's exactly what has happened, Paul. Because I came to work for you as a graphic designer, who thought, I'm the designer, I know what's best. And I left working for you as a UX designer saying, I don't know fucking anything, talk to the user.
I don't know if that's good leadership or not.
but that is the snowball thing. And now I've got three people on my team, 2 of which I directly line manage, who I'm teaching that to now. So that's exactly what's happened. It's like exponential growth.
Yeah. And sometimes it's those little things like, I'm kind of like, I didn't really enjoy bloody working with SharePoint, but so those little things that kind of like, I'm really glad I put that effort in, and kind of like, I did it a bit on my own personal time, and kind of like, because, work things getting in that way, but it's something I was passionate about doing, and then kind of like, giving that out back to the company, and it's just making those, and so what's that phrase? It's kind of like, if you can change a few people's minds, you can change 1 million. There's a better phrase out there.
It's that domino effect. I think that's eloquent enough.
It is the exponential growth thing, isn't it? I don't know.
Definitely, it's the butterfly effect. If I flap my wings here. There's a fucking tornado in Japan. There you go. I've just killed about 20 people.
There you go. Not again.
I've just Googled it. It's not changing the world one mind at a time, is it? That seems a bit simple.
Oh, that sounds like a Michael Jackson song.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Probably automate that.
Long form. I feel like that person needs to delegate and an example of bad management, really.
Yeah.
You have to tell everybody.
That's it individually.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right in the point that the one thing I picked up on that particular point about having something that's accessible by the entire organisation is that that's part of what you're setting up as a manager, and it's part of these processes that have to have a life and have to have an understanding outside of your team. Accessibility is a great example of this, because it very often starts, if you have an organisation that doesn't understand accessibility, then it usually starts in the UX team when they get round to, getting one. And then the UX team immediately says, hold up, this is everyone's job, this is everyone's responsibility, and then spends however long it takes building the necessary tools, processes, workshops, presentations, etc., to explain to people why they are just as responsible for accessibility as the UX designer. But it does take a manager in a particular position, and often with a particular tenacity as well, to be able to do that and to push that in front of the right people. I think it's actually a very kind of vital part to it comes into that shit shield type arena though as well. You're arming the other people around you, those in parallel roles, especially parallel management positions, with the same information you have, so that essentially you can align, you can, get on the same page and remove the friction.
I think that tenacity point is really good. Actually, big part of my job was realizing. Well, I always knew it, but it's actually following through on my own words. Is like I like to say, I'm aggressively opinionated or whatever. But there will come a point where I'll just kind of like, okay, all right, have it your way. But part of the job is to like not do that and to be tenacious and not take no for an answer, particularly with accessibility and UX. It's like I understand, like sometimes you can be too empathetic. I understand why you want what you want or why you want to not do the UX process, but still no.
Yeah, this is why you hired me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or not, I mean, sometimes it's not them that's hired you, but this is why the business that hired you hired me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And the tenacity thing is a big thing because you might have an easier life if you just go, okay, yeah, let's do it your way. But that's not right, is it?
Until you get to your own team, when typically you should be able to say, yeah, we'll do it your way because I've given you everything you need.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You mean the team that works for
it.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You should say yes as much as possible to your team while saying
and
no
tell
to
everyone
across
themselves
from you. Yeah. Tell everyone parallel you no. Tell everyone below you yes.
Which, as a blanket rule, is probably not as effective as it could be. But it's something
Can I have the
to
day
bear
off?
in mind.
Yes.
Don't be religious to that. Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Paul, you're muted.
Oh, I'm back.
There you
back
go.
in the room.
There you go.
There we go. Cool.
I didn't know whether
You were
there was
making a very good point, though.
No,
Yeah.
I was just. There's a couple of things. Just to go on your point, Nick, about the ranting stuff. I think there was somebody who was talking the other day that was there's a professor at a university, and they had like a stuffed monkey outside the room, and a big sign saying, "Tell your problem to the monkey first before you come in," and sometimes that's all that somebody wants to do is just offload that problem.
Is that a good management technique then, or is that a bad management technique?
I don't know. I don't quite know because, but I think sometimes though it's that when you've got a problem, you need to formalise it verbally.
Yes.
To understand the problem,
or verbalise it to understand it.
Yeah. And I think is it in development they have like called the technique
egg
called rubber ducking.
Oh, the rubber duck. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I knew it was something to do with like fouls. Yeah. So when you have a foul problem,
very good.
Talk to the rubber duck.
You talk to the rubber duck and you explain kind of like what you're trying to do, and then something clicks, and kind of then. You can then kind of like go, oh yeah, I solved that this way, and it's interesting. There's a website. Let me Google this for you.
Yeah,
I kind of.
My mate sends me those all the time. And it's like, sorry, go on.
And sometimes it's that kind of like you just want to talk to somebody about it, and you just want to. You don't.
I'll ask my mate a question.
Google it.
I'll ask my mate a question, and he'll reply with a "Let me Google that for you," and it taps the question. There's an animation where it taps the question into Google, and then it searches it and presents it to you. And it's like, all right, do you understand what a friendship is? I was just having a conversation. I could quite, if you want, we can both go our separate ways now, and I'll never ask you another question ever again. I was just striking up a conversation.
I'll go for a coffee with Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Take my laptop and just pour coffee on the keyboard.
Interesting. Yeah, when you were saying that, it just reminded me of that story about that professor.
Well, I think that's the point, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need rubber ducking's one thing. Sometimes you do just need to align your own thoughts. Very often, talking at someone gives you the context you need, and their little subtle nods, those little they might sit there mirroring you, saying, just repeating the last few words you said to try and drag more out of you.
I quite like the rubber duck thing, but you could. The problem with the rubber duck thing is you could ask the rubber duck questions or talk to the rubber duck questions like 1,000 times, but the one occasion where the rubber duck replies, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
You might have been keeping it in too long.
Yeah. Something's cracked.
You're like, what should I do? Is a table a component or a pattern? And the rubber duck's like, kill them all, Nick. Kill them all.
But I think something kind of like you. I kind of like that rubber duck, but sometimes that if you kind of like say that's kind of like just go away and talk to yourself and do it, then it's kind of like if you do that all the time, you just get winding around your own headspace.
Yeah,
but again, that's what a team's for as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a mob session. Have a
and very often they can cut through the crap of whatever circuitous monologue you'll spout to a last poor ducky.
Yeah. I mean, this might be like bordering on philosophy again, but you're only capable of thinking the things that you're capable of thinking, right? No, it doesn't matter how long you sit and stew on something. You've only got the capacity of your brain, whereas, like you said earlier, Mark, I may well be the most creative person in the world, right? But I'm never going to be as creative as the combined creativity of 5 other creative people.
Exactly. Yeah. And even if you do enter some Zen-like meditative trance and come to some enlightenment about your table component, it's going to take a bit longer than if you have a discussion with your team ultimately.
Yeah, just bang it out in 5 minutes rather than 5 days. Yeah.
It's the other thing as well you mentioned earlier, Nick, you were talking about people getting the same page and stuff like that, and I think as a leader, it's almost like you have to teach everybody a certain language. Yeah, and a language of
terminology, like literally language. Terminology is one of the most important things in
definitely
building a team and interacting with the rest of the business, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And then everybody, if you can teach not only your team but the rest of the business that language, then communication becomes faster, quicker, you more innovative, you kind of you can solve problems easier. Otherwise, then you're talking to the rubber duck and going like, what the fuck's a table? Is it a component? Is it a fan? And then everybody's kind of like, if somebody questions it, then everybody's going to question it. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
On it, and kind of you have to put that in kind of plain terminology. Yeah,
the exception disproves the rules, that kind of thing.
Which
is that's the original quote. A lot of people say this wrong. They say the exception proves the rule, which is no. The exception quite undermines the rule and explains how it doesn't actually exist as a rule because there's an exception, so it can't possibly be a rule.
To not go off on a tangent, so you've misunderstood the misunderstanding. So prove in this case means tests. So the exception tests the rule.
Okay.
That's what it means. Whereas prove in today's world has come to mean prove it as true. But actually prove is a synonym for test.
Prove is also a synonym for resting, as in baking as well. To prove your dough.
I was thinking that.
But doesn't that mean that you're testing the dough to make sure that the yeast is working properly?
I have no idea. I have no idea as to what that actually means, which came first. Let me Google that for you.
There you go. That's a callback.
Love it. Love it.
It rhymes. It's like poetry. It comes back around. Oh.
But you are right. Basically, you've just tweaked the saying.
Well, the original quote that I said is actually, and it is written, disproves the rule, is how it exists within Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, which is where I first encountered that.
Wow, is that one of those words where prove and disprove
essentially mean the same
thing? Yeah.
Probably, yes. Yeah, because if you're disproving something, you're proving the opposite to be true, which is technically proving.
Yeah. Or is it? No, it's prove. Is prove and proof two different words as well?
Yes.
Welcome to Thesaurus Hour.
Dictionary Corner.
We literally could do a show where we just pick a word and talk about that word for like an hour.
We could do.
Yeah.
I think
whether that would be interesting for other people or not.
I think it probably would.
Today's word of the day is the word azimuth, which refers to the arc between 2 points on a compass, or the horizon.
Why is there a word for that?
I don't know, but I read this book once, and it used that word twice in the same page, which definitely meant that person had hit the old thesaurus button, seen that word, liked it so much on that day that they used it twice and then completely forgot it existed.
Forgot about it, yeah. Like word of the day toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I really enjoyed that. There is one thing I wanted to talk about quickly. I'm not sure how much time we've got left on the subject, but...
Like Mark Steele's banging at the door outside the toilet where I'm sitting in Bolton Services. So.
But when it came to getting a leadership role, one of the first things I did was try to break it down, try to break a lot of it down. And I've managed to break things down into 3 things, which was people, product, and process, 3 Ps. People being either, typically for me, it was from the leadership perspective, i.e. the people you're managing, the people you're working alongside. Processes, how you do it, how you create stuff. And so it's who, how, and what, essentially, and product is what you're building. But then when I was thinking about this...
What?
Who, how, and what. Who, how, and what, which sounds like a Dr. Seuss book, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The whats and the who's. But I noticed when I was thinking about this, because this diagram came to me about 3 o'clock in the morning, which is apparently when my inspiration strikes. Exactly, yeah. And it was the relationships between any two of these 3 things. So, for example, if you cross people and process, you tend to get what I called the culture. That's where your culture lies, because it's how people are doing and what they're doing. When you cross your people and your products, you get identity, which is personally my favourite, because it's how your UX designers are, to be abstract and aloof, but it's how they're actualising in accordance to the wider organisation. It's how they're achieving their specialism, how they're using their skills relative to your product, and that's where it feeds into their portfolio, ideas of being public facing, ideas of getting your team at conferences and stuff like that. And then when you've got process and product, that's your delivery. That's where that exists, and that's that just dives a lot deeper into how your processes actually influence your product and stuff like that. And I think what we then went on to do was we did a UX day where gave everyone the opportunity to mourn, and every single one of their mourns, or praises indeed, fell into one of these 6 categories.
Nice.
And from that, at least I was able to get quite a good overview. You can then prioritize, solutionize around those things, to use our favorite word,
That's not a word.
It's not, no. To think up solutions.
Solve.
To solve, yes. You could then solve these problems.
Can we? But yeah, have you proven this?
Yeah. No, this is it. It's yet to be proofed. But, it's on the azimuth of the next sport. So.
Nice.
You could bolt it on to the next UX day.
But yeah, I wanted to mention those kind of 6 things that, for me, have always formed quite a nice circle.
I like that. Or it's like a Venn diagram, isn't it?
It's like essentially it's 3 Venn diagrams in one. In the middle, you can put kind of your core theme.
Yeah.
For me, it's always rethinking. I find rests in the middle of that.
Or like your brand, your company's brand could be in the middle there. Like all these things. Like a lot of companies kid themselves that like they have this outward facing brand and they have these like tenets that the business have, like they're usually about 3 or 4 out there, and all businesses have these things, but they all amount to the same thing, which is like we're good good people, and
we're good people. Give us your money.
Give us your money, yeah. But and that is that's the outward brand, right? But when you get into the business, it turns out it's like a toxic work culture, and there's loads of crunch and loads of like turnover because people hate it, and you treat people like peons and like they're replaceable. Whereas actually your culture and your brand should be the same thing.
It should definitely very, very, they should mutually arise, basically.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. This for me was a kind of gateway to trying to establish a roadmap, if you will, for the maturity of UX within the organisation. And then ironically, the blocker I hit was getting anyone to look at it.
So immature then.
Yeah. So that's still something that's existent on the sidelines. I'll get back to pushing that when I get round to it.
I noticed you said UX Day there. It just reminded me that's one thing that I've started on our team. So every other Wednesday, so every 2 weeks, we have a UX Day, and it's just an entire day blocked out for the UX team to do stuff together. And we found that we do that in person now. So we book out the boardroom or like one of the larger meeting rooms, and we hook Parabol up to the TV, and we have a 2-hour UX retro in the morning. So that's the first thing we do when we come in. We start at 10. So you've either got an hour to do whatever, answer emails in the morning or rock up late. We start at 10 in the meeting room. We do the UX retro, and we spend 2 hours doing as many or as little tickets are on the board within that 2 hours. And then we have dinner, and we usually all go out together because we're in the centre of Manchester. It's quite good, so we go out for lunch, and then we come back in. We have a component review for an hour and a half. So at the moment, I'm trying to establish like a design system, and we've got a bit of a V0, which is basically a fucking mood board of all the different disparate components on the websites and mobile apps and stuff, and 27 versions of the same button. And we're now refining those components, talking about them right down to the nuts and bolts, and then once we've done that and we've refined it, we're creating a V1 and dropping this new component in there. So we do that. Then we have another little break, 15 minutes. So like just is a bit of a tip to any manager out there. If you're doing a meeting that's over an hour and a half, rethink your life, because no one is listening to you. No one's interested. You shouldn't really be doing a meeting that's over an hour without a break. But if it's over an hour and a half, just cut it off there. Like no one should be booking in 2-hour meetings or half day long meetings. It's ridiculous. So we have an hour and a half, and then we have 15 minutes break, and then we have a UX and dev component review. So in this meeting, we go over the component that we refined last week or 2 weeks ago in our component review, and we show it to the devs, and we run through with the devs and see where the problems or not are with those, and then that's ready for like release or whatever, or refinement, whatever we're going to do. And then after that, we have a UX SLT meeting. So the three seniors, well, the two seniors and the head of UX have a meeting and just go over stuff. And the other guys can just kind of do what they want. They can catch up with work, or they can talk amongst themselves, or they can carry on with like refining components, like anything they want. But they're unbothered by the rest of the business for the rest of the day because it's booked out, and it's going really well so far. It's been cool. Everyone's really liking it, and we do a lot of work. We get a lot of questions answered, and we do a lot of work, but we're fucking laughing the whole time. Which I think is really nice. Like everyone's really enjoying it. So yeah, I'll let you know how that goes in future. But it's pretty good. We did actually one of the things we realised almost straight away is that the component review aspect of it, we need to do that every week at least. So we do a component review every Wednesday, and then everything else is every other Wednesday.
Yeah, our component reviews are weekly. I think that is a really good example of the significance of working in person.
Yeah.
And something that I personally, we've talked about this in the past, but I personally believe that working remotely is yet to catch up with. Because we have sessions like that, but because they're remote, then everyone's just sat quiet because no one's interacting with anyone else. No one. So realistically, the only chemistry is between the person who's speaking and the screen. And it can.
I think it's important to mention though that like we have, and I think it's important to facilitate like people who want to or need to work from home on that day. So whether we've agreed to come in or not, we go to a room where we're able to dial into a Teams call. And then you don't have to explain yourself. If either you attend or you don't, and I don't mind either way, it's totally optional. But if you're at home that day, you can dial in and attend any one of those calls, like remotely through Teams. Or that's the idea, because not to like throw shade at anyone, but the IT is not so great at the moment. So that call isn't always the greatest success. But I'm willing at the moment to put that down to like a return to work and underestimation of the demand on the Wi-Fi when people come back into the office versus like having worked remotely for 2 years. So see how that pans out. But yeah, I think it's important, to like any managers or whatever listening, give that option and don't put any emphasis on either attending or not. Like that's up to the person. If you've got flexibility there as part of the culture, then that's exactly what it is. And you don't demand anyone comes in or stays at home. It's up to them to make that decision.
Interesting. I did a workshop a week or so ago, and I took all the chairs out the meeting room so that nobody could sit down and just go on the laptop. Laptops were banned, chairs were banned, and afterwards everybody said that was the best workshop I've ever been in.
Just because they couldn't sit down.
Because they kind of like, when they're stood up, they have to interact and they have to do something. Otherwise you
feel awkward, don't you?
Yeah. And it got everybody talking and everybody kind of listening and kind of.
How long was this workshop?
The workshop was 45 minutes.
All right, okay. And if there's a workshop shot, a 45-minute meeting where I'm stood up, I will be inspired to kill you by the end of it.
I don't know. If you're doing something and talking,
stop wearing high heels. That's the key.
I will wear what I choose. As a sartorialist, and I state that these are my choices.
Sorry, Nick, you were saying.
I don't think I was saying anything. I was just saying, no, I don't think I was saying anything.
Yeah, but as well, kind of like I always try and put my meetings for about half an hour because I think anybody's attention span after half an hour, they're gonna.
It is, yeah. I think half an hour is like, if I had my way, no meeting would be longer than half an hour. But you have to be realistic and pragmatic about it as well. Like you can get some work, work done in an hour. And there's always the thing about the reason that our UX retro is an hour and a half is like 20 minutes to half an hour of that is spent bullshitting at the start of the
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
before we even get anything done, which is
Nice.
nice, and I welcome it, but you've got to account for that time, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, is it time to turn the volume down on your headphones?
Are you gonna run the intro then?
I'm gonna, run the VT. That's it.
Stands for videotape, BT,
Nothing's running.
which has been a dead
Nothing,
technology for at least 20 years now. What's cracking?
Going live. Just thinking about it.
Have you tweaked?
Tombola.
No, I'm not tweaked
Have you
it.
tweaked it? No.
No, what's going on?
Right. Well, it's time for UX Tombola. I've subverted expectations there.
Yeah.
There
There
we
we
go.
go.
There we go.
Right, turn your headphones down, everyone.
That sound means it's time for UX Tombola. The segment of the show where we pick a random product, object, service or place from the Tombola machine and discuss its terrible or great UX.
Spin the wheel, Nick.
I've just realised an inconsistency there. Is it a wheel or is it a tombola? Because those two things are very different.
Oh.
So, you know.
Are they?
Is it a-
Why are you realising this like 2 years into doing this?
Because I've actually listened to myself, which is not something I do a lot. Listen to the words that were coming out of my mouth. Paul's mouth, actually. Sometimes I get myself and Paul confused.
Yeah, it's all right.
bit,
I do the same.
bit of a Tyler Durden Fight Club situation. So are we going to edit that at any point? Because there are people at home now cursing as they've gone through the third pair of AirPods.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just you who wants this to change.
Yeah.
No one's written
I
in.
hate it.
Probably because we don't provide a PO box, and why would they anyway?
Yeah, well.
I get anthrax through the vein.
Or, any other number of white powders.
We can do it if you want, Nick. We can redo it again.
Oh,
We
okay.
can put spin the tombola machine. I will correct myself.
Spin the drum. Right, do we need a song then? We need a song, don't we?
We need a
We
song.
do.
The customary
Yeah.
song.
Gotta clear my throat.
I'll just do it. I'm going in.
Go on.
Pick one. Pick a thing. Pick a subject that we're gonna do. Pick one. But do it quick, 'cause I need to go for a poo.
Okay.
I realised this morning that I'm limiting myself by singing the words UX Tombola, and that creates a certain cadence, doesn't it? Whereas
Yeah.
if we just avoid that term and allude to the action of picking something or spinning the tombola, we can have a lot more play in the rhythm and genre of theme tune and everything.
And our more astute listeners will also deduce that you have nothing better to do in your mornings than think about the songs. Fucking UX Tombola.
In 2 years or whatever, that's the most thought I've ever put into doing that segment. And I didn't even get as far as the words, just the melody. Well, I mean, the exclusion of UX Tombola anyway. We need to pick one
what's
now, don't
the
we?
subject?
We do.
Well, that's a good question. If I'd have given this any thought, I'd have picked one
Would
by
have
now.
set this
wouldn't
up.
I? Had it ready to go. Spin the wheel, Nick.
Go on.
It's so today's UX Tombola is the UX of cling film. That's the UX of cling film. Saran wrap, kitchen plastic, call it what you will.
Sounds like the name of an aunt.
Aunt Saran's coming in. She's going to do that bloody rap again.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. What's your problem? What's your pain point?
What's
with
my
cling film?
problem? Well,
Yeah, what's your problem?
You're not the first person to ask that, Paul, but you're definitely the first person to ask it in such a calm way. So what's my...
I'm just googling the problem with cling film.
Well, there's a few, isn't there? I mean, it's the sellotape problem. Like, you can't find the fucking edge. One thing about cling film, and I reckon I'm partially responsible because I always just buy the cheapest roll of cling film that they have. But you unwrap it, and the bottom end of it, the bottom like inch or so, stays where it is, and it ends up like tearing all the way around. Anyone else get that issue? I think that's to do with the fact that it's cheap. It's cheap shit. So we've got a cling film cutter box now where we put it in, and you pull it out and like rip it. You rip it, but it doesn't work. It works with foil. And it works with greaseproof paper, but cling film's like too feathery, so it ends up just getting stuck to itself. So that's a nightmare. Also, I heard about 20 years ago that it's a carcinogenic, is cling film.
Carcinogenic? Why? What, if you eat it, or what?
No, like, I don't know. I mean, like, the plastic, or maybe, like, it's got something on it, hasn't it, cling film, to make it either cling or not cling. So it's got during the manufacturing process, they put something on it so you can separate it again, I think. Also, it doesn't stick to the machinery.
Episode of How It's Made for cling film.
Yeah, with Greg Wallace.
So there's a lot wrong with cling film. Another thing about cling film is, like, you may know, you may not know, that I do, or used to do before the pandemic, a bit of tattooing, and like cling film features heavily in that industry as well. So you wrap it, you clean everything down, and then you cover it with cling film basically to make sure it's extra clean, and then you clean the cling film, and then when you're done, you just take it all off again. But again, that whole process is a nightmare. You have to wrap stuff, you have to pick it, you have to pick the end off, you have to make sure that you can use it again the next time. Sorry, I just burped. You can fix that in post.
I do think we didn't hear the burp, actually. The thing we heard was your commentary on the... Oh, right.
Oh, God. There you go.
That resounded like a gunshot then. Which is probably how I'm going to die. The thing is for me with cling film, it's your plastic problem again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a roll of plastic. You know, I was talking to Chris about this when I saw... I think it was Chris I was talking to. It might have been someone else.
Doing the dishes.
It was either that or your reflection.
Or my reflection. It could have been, or a rubber duck. Because I have, controversially, I have a similar problem with Lego.
Ooh.
And, you know, and the thing is, I love Lego. I don't really play with it because quite frankly, I don't have the space to put it once it's built. But I can't help but, you know, I can't quite reconcile the fact that essentially what I'm doing is working with hundreds of bits of plastic that really are going to remain exactly as they are long after I've gone. And it's kind of the same for cling film. In fact, I'd say cling film is worse, quite substantially worse, because that's going to look a lot more like a bloody jellyfish in the ocean than my Lego piano I spent £2,000 on. Also, the time in which it's useful is like infinitesimally less than Lego. Exactly. You can't clean cling film, you know, as in to reuse it, because that would be all kinds of... I mean, maybe that's the product idea then, clean film. Clean film. It's a reusable cling film. Well, in fact, that's the thing now. So, have you seen those things that look like condoms that you put stretch over the top of like your cups? Oh yeah. Or you stretch, or when you've but I never thought of half like that. You like eat half a tin of beans and then you put like a flowery condom over the top and put it in the fridge. and once it's on the tin, you can do whatever you want with that tin. You know, it's protected. You're not going to get beans everywhere. Inside your microwave, Mark, is what I'm talking about. Yeah. To get your mind out of the gutter. I may be in the gutter, but I'm looking at the stars. You know, when you can segue into an Oscar Wilde quote, you know you're not that tired. I mean, I am. I'm absolutely going back to bed just after this conversation. Reusable cling film does exist. I'm a little bit I still really don't like those things. Those
I mean, that's
plastic
just
things.
made out of another non-biodegradable thing, isn't it?
Though I think they do advertise now that some of them are made from recycled materials, but that's kind of the bare minimum now. I should expect that. So, yeah, I tend to always default towards tinfoil. If I need cling film for anything, typically it's wrapping food for the fridge. So I found foil has been all right, because I'm the kind of person that if I've got leftovers in the fridge, one or two things is going to happen. They're either eaten later that day, or they are left so long that they crawl out of the fridge to claim squatting rights of their own volition. Yeah. You know, I've once had a block of cheese offered to pay rent before. So I kind of tinfoil's always been fine for me when it's come to wrapping food, and that I believe at least I put that in my recycling. I don't know how much how recyclable it is.
100% recyclable.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Same with Kit Kat wrappers.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah.
But there's very salty chocolate in this house, actually, which is probably explains why I'm so miserable all the time. Nothing to do with this so-called chronic depression or anything. It's just because I need a Kit Kat.
Yeah. There you go. See, world problem solved.
Exactly.
Oh God, yeah. Cling film. I've stopped using it now, but because it's just it's bloody impossible to use as well, isn't it? Kind of like what I ended up doing with cling film. You kind of like start to wrap some of it, then you get a hole in it, then you wrap it again over a different direction, then you get a hole in that bit, and that bit doesn't quite fit. You've misjudged the piece, and then you kind of and then you've got about 60 layers of cling film.
Yeah, before you know it, it's just a ball.
You have to overuse it, or there's no point in using it at all. It just comes off the top.
Yeah, that's it. The important part of the word cling film. I mean, if you break it down, it's a film that clings to things. Yeah. But ironically, unless you use more than one layer at a time, it doesn't cling to anything.
The only thing it clings to is sea turtles' intestines.
Exactly. And that's even when I'm not trying to put them in the fridge. But,
you've eaten your fill, and there's still a little bit of sea turtles' intestines left over. Oh, what should we do with the rest of these sea turtle intestines, Mark? Just pop a bit of cling film round them and put them in the fridge.
That's it. For later.
We'll eat the rest later.
Is there anyone's offended by that statement? Maybe go to the post office. There might be a pamphlet or something.
The office.
That's
what the cool kids are calling it. don't have time to say post office.
No. Too busy writing letters about sea turtles.
Yeah, sea turtles to save. Can't fuck around. Sea turtles to save. I'm off to the office.
I know. Oh, God. Which reminds me of a news story this week that happened. They found a note in a bottle that washed up on the shore from Barbados or something, and it was two girls, and they wrote kind of like almost a dating profile in this note, and put it into the sea. And then, but I kind of wonder what the logic behind that was, because like if you put a kind of like
the news.
get on the news 20 years later, and it said like I not bad looking, I like laughing and stuff like that. It was like a proper,
not
kind
bad
of like
looking, I like laughing.
No.
This person was definitely a murderer.
Don't own a phone or a computer.
I like to engage with human activities such as laughing and breathing. I also like to walk when I can't sit down, and occasionally eat sea turtle intestines and cling
But it made me think, like, why would you put a note in a bottle? Are you trying to go on a date with a porpoise or something? Or can do you want to, like, just try...
Or a man who's lost at sea.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine? Imagine you've been stranded on a desert island for the best part of 6 weeks. You get a boss, I see that, whatever combination of words I was trying to say there. Completely given up on them. And it's just a dating profile of someone who says, I'm not bad looking and I like to laugh.
Oh my God, I'm not bad looking and I like to laugh.
Oh, match made in heaven.
Match, there you go, bloody hell. Swipe right.
Throw the bottle right.
Not exactly easy to reply to, is it?
I'm now, writing it down. I'm aged, right, so I'm 38 now, so in 20 years I'll be... I am 58 at the time of reading this.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Oh, you throw a message back.
Yeah, wrap it in cling film so it doesn't get wet.
Yeah, cling film. What's?
Well, I think environmental shit. Besides the usability problems, Nick listed them all very adroitly. He's clearly been, this is something that's haunted you
for a while.
Yeah, a number of years. And I think you're absolutely right. It is like it's like sellotape that's made less of a commitment, really, to its purpose. Because sellotape, one side sticky, one side not. It's thin specifically to be used in small portions, small amounts. So it's just superior at everything apart from maybe, preserving food.
Wrapping around your chicken.
Yeah.
Or pranks on the toilet.
That's true. That's the other thing.
I don't get those because, have you seen they put toilet paper over the, and I think it's so fucking shiny. Anybody would just realise, or you'd have the joins kind of way where you've tried to put it on and you have to put about 60 layers on. I just think, why would anybody not, unless you kind of keep the light out of the bathroom or something?
I think you do depend on a certain level of visibility, or you have to accompany it with, that's something that means someone doesn't look at the toilet before they sit down, basically. That someone's in a rush. Because the other prank is to do it, to fasten it over your doorway, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a bit more effective because you tend not to look at the space a bit in the doorway, which, is arguably another philosophical point in today's rather cerebral podcast. Are you looking at the space in the doorway?
Podcast.
Oh gosh, don't. It'll just be me on my soapbox for 14 hours at a time.
Oh, I'd love to do that because it's one of those things where there's no right or wrong answer in it. You just go on forever.
Oh, you'd say that until people started, commenting.
Yeah, that's what listeners think at this point in the show.
Yeah.
That's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
I feel like if anyone's made it this far into this, not only this episode, but the series as a whole, they're in for the ride at this point. We've pretty much radicalised them to whatever it is that we do.
Totally.
But how do we solve this one? This is
we solve? Well, I like.
Go on.
I like the idea of your food condoms, but maybe we could
condoms.
Condoms.
I think so. First of all, just get rid of cling film and do it now. Stop making it. But
there isn't really a place for cling film in modern society.
No, not in 2020.
There are solutions enough around such things as eating more sustainably. You greedy bastard.
Although the tattooing thing is it has very much
Yeah.
a place in tattooing, but again,
No, maybe that's the product we
Well,
can sell, though. Maybe you could
I-
do some kind of sleeve solution. That isn't perhaps reusable, but made out of a more economical material, made with more thought in mind.
I mean, you can get that stuff that you make food bin bags out of now, can't you? It's like made out of cornstarch, is it?
Mm.
Oh yeah.
It's
yeah,
like 100,
Yeah.
like totally biodegradable. I don't know what the
yeah.
economical manufacturing cost of that is, like in terms
No,
of
that's true.
does it spit
And
out
it might
more
be a spot
carbon
too
than
porous to wrap food in. That's the idea. Is that it creates a essentially a vacuum, doesn't it? It creates a perfect seal.
Yeah, an impenetrable banner. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've got an idea. We've got a name. I think clean film is what we run with, and we just see
Not
what.
condoms.
I mean, maybe if you order now, you get a complimentary free gift of 5 condoms.
I like the idea of putting one of those on tomato ketchup, and then you've got a condiment.
Oh no!
Oh, that's fucking amazing.
That was so. No, it was brilliant. It was so contrived.
Sorry.
I love it.
A condoments.
Yeah.
Right, so clean film and condiments. And today, I think Mark should be live at Bolton Services. He's just opened a new stall at Bolton Services.
I like just a sliding little window opening. Hello, sir. There's your order, sir. Thank you for coming to McDonald's today, sir. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there.
Go on.
Continue. Oh no, I was just adjusting myself. I've not got into character today. Am I right, State? Went a bit Wigan then. Hello, I have a product for you today with a special on the side, which is incidentally everything we provide here at Bolton Services. The special on the side, but that's how we make our money. And today I'm offering you a solution to cling film that is neither clingy nor filmy. Because it's a sheet of plastic that you then wash. It's technically tarpaulin. I've noticed Mark is now just selling the stuff he's got in his backyard. And getting more and more desperate as he tries to think up a jingle or a catchphrase. When he's just selling old dishwashers and tarpaulin that he's sponged down. And he's put a condom on the ketchup bottle and made a pun, and he's charging 40 quid for it.
That's the best
Oh
product.
God, I'm not even sure.
That sounds totally on brand for Mark Steeler.
Oh dear.
Condiments. As long as yours don't look like that, you don't need to go to the hospital. Just the idea of putting mustard. I can't get the idea of mustard out of my head when it comes to that. And I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not sure I've got anything today for this.
Mayonnaise would be the classic one for me.
That was good.
Oh God,
that was good enough. I think we've got
more like a oh God, I couldn't know.
a Chinese
make a
corn
joke.
soup, very thin, a broth.
I was going to say more like a tartare if it's been a while.
Oh dear.
That might be too graphic. So, you know, sorry,
an entire catering size tin of corn chowder. Right, we've gone too far. We've gone. We're delirious now.
Really back in.
Right, I'll reel it back in with Mark Steeler. I don't even know what we're selling. We're selling cling film that you can.
I think
mop
you've.
down.
I think you've done
Have
it.
we done it?
I think.
Yeah.
You've done it.
I think
you got a
He
cheeky
just
laugh.
gave up. He was
tarpaulin.
He was at the
Blue
drive-through of Little Chef, handing over someone's I don't know snail porridge or whatever, Heston's dinner, whatever the fuck they sell there. and this just what you can find. 100% scavenged, foraged food, but it is slugs and and a corpse that came off the side of the road. And that's what Mark's also selling. He's doing really well these days, actually. The arcade is obviously doing well. It's not as if he's had to demean himself to line of work. He's not happy with Bolton Services or anything.
Yeah. Sounds a drive-through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Working part-time at the drive-through McDonald's.
And flogging stuff from his backyard at the same time.
Hustle. #hustle Paul.
Yeah.
Right. Are you going to see us out then, Paul?
Should we see us out and roll the credits?
Yeah.
Go on.
Like it.
Go on.
Well, we'll see if we can. Here we go.
That's it for this episode of Faster Horses. If you like the show, please like, subscribe and leave a review. It really does help. You can join us on patreon.com/Faster Horses from £1 a month for more chat, UX Tombola and the hottest new products from Bolton Arcade's own Mark Steeler. Special thanks to James Med for our theme tune. I'm Mark Sutcliffe.
I'm Nick Tomlinson.
I'm Paul Wilshaw.
Follow us on Twitter at Faster Horses UX, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks for more Faster Horses.
Nice. Peace. Yeah, I've got you. I was going to get you a T-shirt, but I then realised that in no uncertain circumstances would Mark ever be caught.
Be an absolute waste of money.
Unfortunately, yes. I just don't wear them.
Ever be caught. Yeah, ever be caught dead. So I went for some badges. So I've got some badges. So
did you have some stickers as well?
Got some stickers. Yeah, I've got some stickers.
I'm going to stick that onto my work laptop for the next person after I leave.
I've done the same. So there's my work laptop. I stuck it on there. And I thought... Yeah, I thought, shall I put it on my personal laptop? And I thought, I'm the only one who ever sees that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not going to get any conversion off that, are you?